Welcome to The Critique. Today we're looking at a script for a commentary video called Bella and Gigi Hadid accused of sick acts in the Epstein files.
It's a deep dive into leaked emails, those allegations, and the whole nepotism angle in fashion.
Exactly. So let's get right into the feedback. Okay, so the first thing is the narrative arc here suffers from some pretty severe pacing issues, mostly caused by drifting into these broad, unrelated political analogies.
It really, really does. I mean, the script starts off so strong.
Incredibly strong.
It hooks you right away with these specific, really high-stakes allegations about the Hadids. That's what the title promises.
Right.
But then, right in the middle of it, and the writer just derails the entire momentum with this massive monologue about, draining the swamp.
Oh, the draining the swamp part?
Yeah, and government overhauls and how you can't just arrest everyone in law enforcement. It feels like you suddenly just changed the channel.
It's a total genre shift.
Exactly. It completely waters down the tension about the actual topic.
And I think I see the trap the writer fell into. They're trying to draw a parallel, between systemic corruption in government and in Hollywood.
It's an ambitious idea.
It is, but by zooming out that wide, you lose the threat of the story. So my suggestion is to tighten the scope ruthlessly.
Yes.
You have to maintain focus on the specific evidence, the emails, and the specific subjects, the models, before you try to zoom out. These analogies just confuse things.
I completely agree.
And if the listener clicked on a video about the Hadids, they really don't want a lecture on the Department of Justice, right?
Not at all. So a really concrete way to fix this is to just swap the analogy. Instead of the whole top-down overhaul of the U.S. government thing, just stick to the industry context that the script actually mentions later. The connection to Les Wexner, L. Brands, Victoria's Secret.
That's a much tighter loop. It keeps the stakes relevant.
Exactly. It keeps the critique inside the fashion world where it belongs.
And while we're talking about keeping the listener immersed, we have to look at that technical interruption. There's a moment where the speaker literally says, "Hello, you good there? And sorry, you were saying?"
Oh, that stood out like a sore thumb. It really did.
Right? I mean, in a live stream, okay, fine, things happen. But for a polished script or a recorded analysis, that stuff has to be edited out.
It just breaks the fourth wall.
It does, and in a way that doesn't help the argument at all. It just makes the narrator sound unprepared, and that hurts the authority of the whole piece.
Creates distance when you want immersion. And speaking of distance, that swamp analogy we were talking about does the same thing.
It really does.
It takes the listener away from the protagonists, Bella and Gigi, for way too long. So a fix here is to just cut the political philosophy.
Just cut it.
And return immediately to Yolanda Hadid's role or Muhammad Hadid's well. Those are the facts that ground the argument. The writer has these great facts. They just let the tension die by looking at the wrong system.
And when the system isn't clear, the argument usually isn't either, which brings us to the next major issue here.
Okay.
The argument around agency, victimhood, and exploitation, it sends really mixed signals that undermine the commentary's authority.
This is probably the most tangled part of the whole script for me.
I think so, too.
The source just oscillates between two stances that feel, totally contradictory. On one hand, it acknowledges Epstein's predatory nature, calls his circle evil, admits he manipulated young women.
All true.
But then it pivots, and suddenly the script is claiming young women were making self-interested decisions and conscious exchanges. It even compares it to Harvey Weinstein, goes on this whole tangent about postmodernism.
It creates such a confused moral framework. Is Epstein a monster who traps people, or are these women just calculating ladder climbers?
And the script seems to say both without really distinguishing between the different people he was targeting.
Exactly. And that confusion leaves the listener not knowing who to root for or who to blame. So the suggestion here is to establish a clear thesis on power dynamics early on. If the argument is that the Hadids didn't need to fall for Epstein's trap because they were already wealthy, then you have to distinguish that clearly from the more naive or vulnerable women who did. You can't just lump them all together.
Yeah, a perfect place to fix this is that section about the young woman correspondent, the one who asked Epstein how the Hadids got famous.
That email is a goldmine.
It is, but the script uses it to pivot into this generalization about how women shouldn't have made certain decisions.
Which, frankly, feels a lot like victim blaming.
It does. A much stronger angle would be to use that email to highlight Epstein's manipulation tactics. He lied to that young woman about the Hadids. He claimed they did sick acts, specifically to lower her own boundaries.
So the argument isn't she made a choice.
No, the argument should be he created a false reality to force a choice. That's a much stronger, more analytical take.
That clarifies the intent so much better. It turns the script from a judgment of the women into an indictment of the predator.
Exactly.
And we have to address the postmodernism section while we're here.
Oh, please. That whole bit felt like it belonged at a philosophy lecture, not a pop culture deep dive.
It's so abstract. The script vaguely claims that looking back at these transactional relationships as coercive is a result of postmodernism.
It's just dense. It's using a $10 word when a 5-cent one would do the job.
So the fix?
A concrete improvement would be to replace that entire section with a simple analysis of leverage. Don't talk about postmodernism. Talk about the fact that Epstein controlled the Justice brand for tween girls or Victoria's Secret. That's hard leverage.
Right.
And then contrast that with the leverage the Hadids had, their father's real estate billions. That explains the power dynamic perfectly without needing a philosophy degree.
It's so much more accessible. It's about who holds the keys, not deconstructivist theory. Okay, now let's look at how the writer talks to the audience. There's a serious clash happening here.
Between what?
Between serious investigation and really casual internet slang. The reliance on graphic, sensationalist language without immediate context, it risks delegitimizing the whole analysis.
This is the credibility kill. It really is. The script repeats Epstein's really crude allegation, phrases like in the butt and giving blowjobs as a hook.
And I get it, those are the words and the emails?
Sure, but the way they're presented is almost for shock value. And then the narrator's reaction is, bro, you're ruining everything.
Bro, you're ruining everything. That line just jumped out at me.
It sounds like a teenager reacting to a video game, not an analyst discussing a global sex trafficking ring. It just tanks the speaker's authority instantly.
It's a complete tonal mismatch. I mean, you want to be relatable, but you have to be authoritative first.
You do.
So my suggestion is to lead with the credibility assessment. Frame Epstein's quotes immediately as the words of an unreliable narrator or a manipulator. Don't just present them as potential facts that need to be disproven later.
And elevate the vocabulary.
Yes, elevate the vocabulary to match the seriousness of it all.
And don't let the accusations just hang there. When the script introduces the email where Epstein claims the sisters follow directions, it's that simple. The writer should immediately juxtapose this with the facts. The facts about IMG models, about Yolanda Hadid's management. Don't let the accusations sit there as a mystery just for the sake of a cliffhanger.
That's a great point. Letting it sit there, you're inadvertently giving oxygen to the lie.
You are. It's about framing.
Speaking of framing, what about the Batman reference?
Right, the script mentions Epstein saying, "The mouse found her Batman." The narrator's current reaction is just like shock. Bro, that's crazy.
It's a missed opportunity.
A huge one. A concrete suggestion is to rewrite this, to analyze why Epstein used these code words. He uses them to create an in-group language that isolates his victims.
It's classic cult tactics.
It's Cult Tactics 101. And analyzing that manipulation is so much stronger than just saying, wow, that's weird.
It turns the narrator from a spectator into an expert. There's also that section about Hollywood tropes, actors doing anything for a role. That feels a bit, misplaced.
It feels misplaced because it's too broad. The whole discussion on Hollywood satirizing itself needs to be tied back to the specific evidence. Like, does this trope even apply to the Hadids?
The script says no.
Where's that line? The writer needs to make that distinction sharper. The trope applies to the victims Epstein actually exploited, not the subjects of the video's title.
Which leads us perfectly into the final and I think most critical critique.
Okay.
It's about how the evidence is organized. The most compelling evidence, the financial and familial insulation of the subjects, is buried way too deep in the narrative.
This is a thing that was so frustrating about the piece. The writer has the smoking gun. The fact that Muhammad Hadid is a billionaire developer and Yolanda was a reality TV star.
It's the whole ballgame.
It completely destroys Epstein's claim that they needed to prostitute themselves for fame. It's the answer to the entire riddle, but it shows up almost as an afterthought halfway through.
It's like they buried the lead. The listener spends the first half wondering, did they or didn't they, when the writer has the evidence to say they absolutely didn't need to from the very start.
Exactly. They're prioritizing the mystery over the analysis.
So my suggestion is simple. Front load the context. The mystery of how they got famous, which the emailer poses, it should be answered immediately with the reality of their background, just to show how delusional or manipulative Epstein's email really was.
And I know some writers worry that if you answer the question too early, people will tune out. But here, the opposite is true.
I agree.
If you focus only on the allegation first, the rebuttal just feels weak when it comes 10 minutes later. So here's a concrete example. Move the details about Muhammad Hadid's real estate ties and Yolanda's role on Real Housewives to the very beginning.
So the moment the script says Epstein claimed they did X to get famous,
The very next sentence should be, but their father was a billionaire developer who built Ritz-Carltons.
right, that kills the cheap suspense, sure.
But it builds the authority of the analysis. It tells the listener, I know the truth, and I'm going to show you exactly how Epstein lied. That's a much more compelling hook.
And the timeline mentioned in the source material is also crucial here, isn't it?
It is. The source says the conversation took place in December 2015. The writer needs to use that. Highlight that by 2015, Gigi was already 20. She was already signed to IMG, already in major campaigns.
You have to connect the dots.
You have to use the timeline to prove Epstein was lying to his correspondent. Don't leave it ambiguous. Connecting those dots makes the argument bulletproof.
There's also that brilliant point about infrastructure that I think deserves way more airtime.
That was my favorite part of the source material. That point about infrastructure, legal counsel, parental oversight, agents, it's excellent.
But it's so fleeting.
It is. The writer should expand on this, contrast the Hadid's infrastructure with the poor women in Epstein's circle who had none of that. This strengthens the Nepo baby argument as a protective shield.
It's not just about money.
No, it's about having a lawyer and a mom who actually watches the set. That is a tangible, actionable insight that explains why the Hadids were safe, rather than just asserting that they were.
That turns the episode into something so much bigger than just celebrity gossip. If you move that infrastructure argument up front, you're basically framing the whole piece as a case study.
A case study in how wealth protects people from predators, like Epstein. Exactly. And that is a much more compelling story than, did they do sick acts?
It is.
It transforms the script from a rumor mill into a sociological critique of class and safety. It answers the so what question immediately. The listener walks away understanding that nepotism, which we always criticize, actually functioned as a safety net here.
And that's a fresh take that's currently just buried under all the swamp analogies and postmodernism rants.
It really is. The writer has all the right puzzle pieces. They just need to put them together in a better order.
You know, looking back at our earlier point about tone front-loading these facts actually solves the sensationalism issue too.
How do you mean?
Well, if you establish right away that the Hadids are billionaires with legal teams, those phrases, in the butt or blowjobs, they lose their power.
They stop being salacious possibilities.
And they start being what they are. Pathetic lies told by a predator. It changes the listener's reaction from, oh my God, did they? To, wow, Epstein was really desperate to impress this girl.
So it frames the explicit language correctly without the writer needing to jump in and say, bro, you're ruining everything.
The facts ruin Epstein's narrative for him.
That's a powerful insight. By restructuring the evidence, the writer actually solves the tone problem at the same time. They don't need to be the moral police. The facts do the policing.
Exactly, which allows them to maintain that objective, analytical voice we're looking for. Okay, this has been a really productive teardown. Let's recap the main actionable points.
Sure. First, tighten that narrative focus. The swamp analogy, the political rant, they have to go. Replace them with specific industry context, like Les Wexner.
Second, clarify the stance on victimhood. Use the emails to show how Epstein manipulated choices and clearly distinguish between the protected class, like the Hadids, and the more vulnerable class.
Third, elevate the tone. The sensationalist language and the bro reaction just undermine the topic's seriousness. Frame Epstein as an unreliable narrator from the get-go. And please, edit out the technical flub.
And finally, and most importantly, front-load the factual context. The details about Muhammad Hadid's billions and Yolanda's fame are your strongest cards. Don't bury them.
Put them right at the start to debunk the allegations immediately.
That structural shift changes everything. It turns a mystery into an analysis. To the writer of this script, you have all the evidence. Now it's just about connecting the dots in a straight line. We would love to see a revised draft. Please submit your work back in again for more feedback. This has been The Critique. Keep writing, keep refining, and we'll see you next time.